Well, I don't know whether someone else is going to join, so maybe we can start. Um, Norm, I don't know whether I have seen you before in this round. You're muted, by the way, if you're saying something.
No, I haven't. I just decided it popped up and finally I had some time to join.
Yeah, so, welcome. So, in this round, we usually talk about stuff curify. So, maybe you could share what you're interested in, what you would like to hear from us. And feel free to share whatever.
I'm trying to get hopefully the marketplace stuff going, trying to see if Karifi is now ready for real prime time. I know it's good for beta work and stuff like that, but I'm not so sure if it's ready yet for production. And I was trying to get some feeling from that from you guys.
Hmm. So the marketplace support, we have
We use
been
Yeah,
releasing it as an experimental feature.
right.
Probably already read the documentation.
Yeah.
Um, so we have not really tried it with like production ready brokers because we couldn't find ones that we can use. So that's why it's still experimental. But if you have any real life experience with real life brokers, we would be happy to, you sharing your feedback. If you find some issues, just, or maybe if it just works, then we would be also happy to hear that.
Okay. I will try it out and see. We have one client that's looking at using it, and I want to make sure that it's really ready for production work. It'll be like in an offline environment, so everything has to be downloaded internally, and then so reaching out to the internet is not an option for them,
Hmm.
which is kind of a lot of places are heading in that direction. And I know for Cloud Foundry we have to do weird things like uh, creating our own blob store, right? And load up the stuff and get the stuff approved before it goes into those secure environments.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if that does Karifi have, I know Karifi has some of that as well, but
Yeah.
you make assumptions there. So,
Speaking of production ready, what aspect of production readiness do you mean? Do you mean like feature parity with Cloud Foundry, or maybe performance, or I don't know,
um,
scale, whatever?
their definition is that their clients, our clients are able to install their apps and run them. That's all they really care about. And I want to make sure that um, it's like Cloud Foundry. It's pretty mature by itself, right? It's been used for a long time. While Karifi is not in that state yet. So
Hmm.
are there any limitations in terms of how big things can get and how many environments we can create and stuff like that? So, or do you know of certain clients already using it in in production environments that can say, okay, you can run this, but don't go over, a certain size because you're going to run into issues, or is there any tunables to up the sizing of things because you got it tuned towards development more than towards production.
Well, currently, Kurifi is designed to be a single cluster deployment, which means that you obviously have to adhere to the limitation of a Kubernetes cluster.
Okay.
That's one thing. Now, I don't know what that means because different clusters have their different limitations. Do you have an idea like what sort of scale are we talking about? For example, how many workspaces, subs, whatever?
Um, s- it's it's about it's under 250 applications, but there's multiple instances of those applications. So they go as large as the best I heard was around 2K app instances. And they want to make sure that will work. So it's basically 3 to 4 that they run with. And they got 150, number of apps. Um, and they do scale up and scale down as needed. It is a this is an offline environment, so it's a I I don't have a lot of information to give you on that because of that, right? So
Mm. Yeah, we have not run such large deployments ourselves, so it would be definitely interesting for us to know how it goes.
okay, I will let you guys know. Hopefully, we'll have some answers over the next few months as we try it out and see how it goes.
Mhm. Keep us posted. Definitely sounds interesting.
Mhm. That's why I wanted to find out if there's any general information or a excuse me, or best practices that you guys want to state. You know, if you want a good working system, this is what stay within these limits.
Unfortunately, we have not explored the limits ourselves, so I guess you're going to be on the front line.
Okay, sounds good. Kind of what we figured. This means more money. Okay. Is there anything in Karifi that would cause export issues?
What do you
Let's
mean?
say within Europe, between Europe and United States in
Um,
terms of the technology that might be included.
I'm not aware of such limitations, honestly, but haven't really thought about it, so I don't know what the current export limitations are. So
Okay.
Griff is a completely open source project and it uses open source libraries. And I think that they all are under the Apache or similar license, if that
Okay.
answers your questions.
And it comes down, a lot of times there's, what's the word I want to use? Encryption algorithms that may, that may cause problems sometimes.
No, Griff is not doing anything about encryptions.
Okay.
Only uses certificates, but this is
Yeah, that's
something
something
common.
different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Those are my questions.
Okay, so keep us posted if you see any issues. Just feel free to ping us on the Slack channel.
Okay, perfect. Okay. All right.
Paul,
So,
I don't remember seeing you before,
No, you haven't
so
seen
nice to meet you.
before. I joined this Slack channel only about a week ago or so. Um, I actually installed Karifi just to play with it. Kind of background is there's a possibility that the organization I'm consulting in, well, I know they do want to demise PCF at some point. They've got lots of people on that platform, lots of app teams on that platform. So I was just looking, is there a kind of easy way to get them onto Kubernetes? And I thought Karifi might be it, perhaps.
That's the goal
Um,
of the project.
well, there honestly isn't a project yet. Um,
No, point is that the goal of Kurifi project is to bring Cloud Foundry users on Kubernetes.
yeah, so that's why I thought Karifi might be interesting. Is there is there a roadmap anywhere of kind of what order you'll be putting in features in and that kind of thing? Is there anything I could, if I wanted to show stakeholders?
So we have our Kurifi backlog project. It is public. Let me share it in the chat.
Thank you.
Here it is. We don't have a very far vision for the future.
Right.
What we're currently doing is we want to make a pluggable log cache API implementation because Kurifi uses the Kubernetes metric server to collect metrics and logs. And if you read the README of the metric server, they explicitly say that you shouldn't do this because the metric server should be used for scheduling rather than monitoring. To the question, what log cache implementation for Kubernetes you have to plug in, we don't know. Probably someone has to come up with such an implementation, and hopefully it would work if it just plugged into Kurifi. The other thing that we are currently tackling is we want to get rid of the dependency to service binding IO, which is a Kubernetes mechanism to mount credentials into the container pods. We are going to remove that dependency from their runtime because their runtime works in a way that every time you bind an app to a service, it restarts the app, and this is something that operators are not really happy with. So we are going to implement the service binding IO specification, but we're not going to use their runtime. We're going to organize everything needed. So from end user point of view, it's going to be the same. They're just not going to get app restarts every time they bind. So this is the thing that we have on our backlog for the upcoming release. Next thing that we are considering is that currently we have this experimental integration with UA, Cloud Foundry UA. This integration is currently limited to authentication only, meaning that you can configure your cluster to trust the UA as an identity provider, and then use that UA token to log in onto Kurifi. Next step would probably be to also handle the authorization aspect of this, because in UA you can define users with roles and scopes and stuff like this. And we would like to see how we can get those into Kurifi as well. That's currently on our plate. But of course, feature requests are always welcome.
And
Contributions as well, of course.
I would love to have the time to, or be given the time by my employer to work on something like this, but I don't think that's going to happen, sadly. So, and do you know if anyone is running Karifi at scale yet, or are people still just
Um,
with it?
it depends what you mean by scale. For example, at my employer company SAP, we are doing some experiments. We have not explored completely what the limits of standalone Kurifi is. What we know is that Broadcom, when they were active in the project, they had some internal stakeholders for the project, but the scale for their deployments was not huge. It was like a couple of applications per deployment, which is, not
Quite
very
small.
big deployment.
Yeah. I was working at VMware up until March last year.
So you probably know better.
Well, not here. I mean, I was actually in Tanzu, in the Tanzu business unit, but I was part of labs, part of the consulting arm, so I didn't have a lot to do with the R&D, unfortunately. But yeah, I think it was a shame that they kind of pulled out of Karifi and went on to build TAP, which is, well, I haven't looked at it for a long while, but it was nightmarishly complicated to begin with. Didn't feel like a great developer experience, certainly, compared with Cloud Foundry.
So do you have an idea what's the scale you would be looking for? Like how many applications, how many workspaces, whatever?
So they're running, I mean, I'm working for a bank or consulting at a bank. They're running a lot of, they have a number of foundations. I'm not sure how many AIs they have running in each foundation, but it's likely to be in the scale of hundreds or thousands. It's certainly more than 2 or 3, probably in the hundreds, I would guess.
Yeah. As I mentioned, we have not experimented with such large deployments, so
Yeah.
we're not really aware what the limit is.
Okay. I say I don't know if it'll go anywhere. I showed Karifi to the platform team about a week ago, just so they're all aware of it now. But yeah, I don't know if it's going to go anywhere at the moment.
Any preliminary feedback? What do
Preliminary
they think?
feedback was kind of this is really interesting. How much of the Cloud Foundry API does it support yet, and that kind of thing, and who else is using it, and questions like that. Kind of questions you might expect.
Well, if you ask whether we can run cuts on Kurifi, no, we can't because we're missing endpoints. But I don't know what's the value of just trying to be cuts compliant. We should probably look into scenarios. Because being compliant with cuts means nothing if you can't do what you want to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, but this is my personal take on being compatible with cuts.
Yeah. I think to some extent, I mean, we haven't, I mean, again, I say, I've just been showed this to the platform team. We haven't talked to any of the app teams yet. So again, we don't know what they might be dependent on exactly. I say, I think if anything happens at all, it probably won't even be this year. But I know that they're making changes to data centers in the US, and they're talking about just demising the foundations there, and the immediate pushback is, well, okay, where do our tenants go if you do that? Okay, thank you. That was really helpful information, though. I've made some notes, and I'm lurking on the Karifi Slack channel. So
yeah, if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask.
yeah. Okay. I'll probably come back really when I've got some more kind of concrete asks. I say at the moment it's all just very vague, and I'm just personally interested in it because because I like Cloud Foundry.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you for